Alrighty, thanks everybody for being here. Just so everybody knows, we will have some players here Sunday afternoon at 4. Coach Kelly will get started obviously with an opening statement. We'll take questions from the people here before we turn it over to the phones. And at that, Coach, it's all you.
Thanks, Michael Birch, ladies and gentlemen, will be handling the sports information and media relations for football this year, so give him a big welcome. Yeah. That's it, Mike. That's all you get from these guys. It's downhill from here on out. We're like everybody else in college football. We're extremely excited about starting the season. For us here at Notre Dame, we've worked very, very hard to put ourselves in a position to get back into the national spotlight, and we have no intentions of giving that up. So the focus has been, since our last game last year, is to get back to the top of the mountain. And you don't get there easily. It takes a lot of work. There's a lot of excitement around here right now. There's a lot of work to be done. We're moving our team off campus for a few days. I like the fact that we can get into an environment where we can spend a lot of time with our players and really get an opportunity to teach and build some strong relationships with our players. So again, an exciting time for us, one where we've been anticipating this opportunity since the last game that we played last year, but our focus is right now on our first practice. So coaches are getting ready for practice, preparation, scripts, all of those things. Our players are finishing up at home. They'll be here this weekend, and we'll kick off the 2013 season. So again, a lot of excitement. Everybody here is busy getting ready to move the football team off campus and get ready for an exciting football season. Questions? Probably have a couple.
How much is getting off campus for the beginning of practice just putting last year in the past, knowing that this team has a new hill to climb in 2013?
I think there's some of that. Certainly, you know, this is a new team. It's a new collection of personalities. You can't live in the past. We want to talk about this year, and what we need to do is get prepared. So the second part of that is no distractions. It's all football. Don't have to worry about getting to math class. We don't need to worry about guys off campus. We're all together, and it's 100% being around each other and our football team. So both of those things in a combination, I think, come together with us going off-site.
Is it going to be one of those no TV, no cell phone kind of things, just everyone?
Well, they do have Wi-Fi. My anticipation is that will crash within the first 20 minutes. No TVs. Unless they want to watch, you know, snow on the TVs. There's no cable out there. So again, it's an opportunity for us to focus on football and each other, and that's what we'll get at Shiloh Park.
I know you guys went to, I think, higher ground in Cincinnati. Is that at all similar to what you're going for here?
A lot of similarities. Yeah, certainly. We're we're still in the process of building infrastructure there, and Shiloh Park has been great. Dan Brazo here has been very influential in helping put together the field situation there, and we feel great about that. So there's been some help, but there's still some work, but we feel like it's got all the things necessary for it to be a very successful camp.
Coach, why did you feel that it was important to name Tommy Rees as the starter in the offseason rather than letting that play out in the preseason?
Because he was the most experienced and gave us the best opportunity to win against Temple coming out. I didn't name him the starter for, you know, all 13 games. I named him the starter for Temple, and my expectations is that he would take the job and continue to lead our football team. But he was the most experienced. He's won. He's obviously knows our offense very well. He's a senior, well-respected. He's got all the things. It was really a quite easy decision from that standpoint.
Brian, over here to your right. Yeah. What is that balance like in terms of almost whitewashing what you guys achieved last year and starting anew versus carrying some parts over that, whether it's confidence, swagger, whatever you want to call it. What is that balance like from year to year?
Well, there's a combination. Certainly, we've developed an environment. People call it culture. A workplace mentality. There's a lot of ways to spin it, but our kids believe in what we do and how we do it. There's a way of doing things here, and so that never goes away. And that has permeated this football program and the way we do things on a day-to-day basis, the expectations of how we play defense and how we play offense and special teams, how we prepare. That will never go away. But the players that were here last year that are no longer here are not part of this team anymore. The plays that were made last year have no influence on this year. So that's the balance. And the preparation has to be as diligent and keen as it was last year. So you're maintaining the environment, you're maintaining what has been built within the program, with the recognition, quite frankly, that we have more work to do. We're still building this thing. And a lot of those pieces are still coming together for us. So that combination is staying in the present with our players. I want our players to stay in the present and really focus on what they need to do to be a better football player in 2013.
And kind of sticking back to Tommy, where does he have to be better this year than he was in 2011?
I just think, we talked ad nauseum about turnovers and taking care of the football. I think he's got to continue to make good decisions, as any quarterback needs to do that. I don't think we're just saying this about Tommy Rees. I think any quarterback has got to do a great job of taking care of the football. We did that last year. My expectations we would continue to do that. He's stronger. He has a great understanding of our offense. And again, I think as long as he continues to pick up where he left off last year and making good decisions, I think we will be in very good shape.
Just to follow up, I know Everett's not here and he's not going to be part of the team. Do you guys have a specific plan for where he's going to be and what he's going to do? Because obviously both you and he expect to be back in January.
Yeah, we expect him back in January. There'll be a plan in place. It's still in flux right now, but we're in communication with Everett. Coach Martin's been talking to him virtually daily. I've talked to him a few times now. There'll be a plan in place that is one that fits his needs and what's best for him in terms of the environment that he's in.
Brian, to your left here, up top. Steve from Network Indiana, as well as Hoosier AM/FM radio affiliation stations in Marion. Back to the Shiloh Park thing for just a moment. How was Shiloh Park decided upon out of other opportunities that might have been out there? And is this, in your mind, hopefully if it works well, a long-term situation for the next few years as we go forward?
Well, we've been looking for a couple of years, and Shiloh Park was one of the camps that we visited a couple of years ago. We didn't feel like the fields were in a position where I could take the team there and practice them without concern for safety. So this has been something that's been in the works. We looked at a number of different sites, and I don't think we're committed to a long-term situation yet. There's still some more things that need to be vetted, but it's certainly a good start for us. And like I said, we're excited that we think we've got a great partner in Shiloh Park. They've done everything we've asked them to do to accommodate us. So we're excited that they've been able to work so closely with us. And quite frankly, it's going to be fun to get out off campus and start football down in Marion, Indiana.
Coach, coming off the undefeated regular season last year, after that, the loss to Alabama, a lot of tumult with you interviewing the Eagles, what happened with the Manti, and then Everett late in the after. Is there anything you have to do now, or that you've been doing ongoing, just to kind of get people past all that negativity that happened in that period?
It was in the rearview mirror the next day. I mean, we don't even think about it. We don't even talk about it. It's history. As I mentioned, our guys were focused the very next day on winter workouts, early morning conditioning, building into our spring and into our summer. So it's not even something that's even discussed.
And just is there any confidence building needed to do after the loss to Alabama to convince this team that you can get back there and be the team that if you get back there, you can put up a better challenge next time?
Oh, yeah, that's everything that we've worked on since that next day has been, and I mean the next day, is about getting back to the national championship game and winning it. And so there's not a man that sat in this seat when we met as a entire team that is not committed to that end. That's why they're here. That's why there's such great excitement, anticipation, and from our standpoint as coaches, we can feel that. So it's pretty clear that our players are committed to one goal, and that is to get back to a national championship, just as every other BCS school on media day is expecting the same thing.
And what do you think Tommy may have learned last year that will help him now as a starter, be a better player than he was 2 years ago? What do you think he could have learned by watching and playing some?
I think it's again, we're talking about young guys that, are not, complete. They're always room for improvement. I'm learning every day. Tommy's learning. And I think when you sit back and you watch the game with such great knowledge and the combination of having played the game, when you get a chance to see it unfold, I think it's just another part of that developmental process. And so he took every mental rep, even though he didn't get him in the games. He was engaged in practices. He got tons of reps, got a chance to really see the games unfold. And that year, although it wasn't one of a number of snaps, he was in critical times, influenced games, and helped us have an undefeated season. So he learned a lot last year.
And how will your offense look different with Tommy running it as opposed to what it might have if Everett was running it? How do you think you'll have to make changes?
They're a little bit different, but the offense will, still have the same components. We're going to need to do some things better, obviously. We're going to have to throw the ball more effectively. We think Tommy is somebody that can bring that. He's got a great knowledge of our offense, and we're excited about that end. We probably won't be running as much option with Tommy, but we'll do things that suit him. And, again, we really like the way he physically has developed. He's stronger. He's running well. And I think you're going to see the very best in Tommy Rees.
Brian, last summer, all the speculation, at least on the outside, was about the quarterback position and who would win it. This summer, more so the running back position. Other than George Atkinson getting the first crack at things, how do you anticipate that position unfolding?
That's a great question. I think I would agree with your assessment is that we know about George. And, I was talking to Coach Martin. We were doing a video clip of some of our big plays, runs last year. And when we put it on, we saw George Atkinson quite a bit. So we know we've got a big play guy in George. He's got things that he's got to continue to work on, ball security, low pads, all the things that everybody in this room knows about. But Cam McDaniel, showed us that he can be a very good back for us as well. So we've got two guys that have done it and that we've seen. The rest becomes, let's go see them practice and see how they compete, and that's really where it's going to be. It's going to be fun. We know we've got some really talented young men that have great resumes, but we're going to have to see how they play, when it comes to college football.
You can't play 6 of them. How many can you play?
Again, another very good question. I don't have the answer for that, but I do have this answer. The guys that are capable of helping us win, we will find a way to get them on the field and find a way to get them touches. Because if you just look at it from a, strictly a realistic standpoint, no, you wouldn't be able to get 6 guys. But can they help us in other areas? And that's the challenge and the charge that we have is to get the guys that can help us win games on the field.
Can you talk to the importance of having a staff return intact and how that helps you carry over from the previous year?
Yeah, it's, we've had great continuity, obviously, and obviously it starts with our coordinators and Chuck and Bob, and having them back obviously sets the leadership and the voice and that consistency of approach of what the expectations are. And so that never changes when you have your coordinators back, and that's obviously very important for our players. And when they hear that same voice, you just pick up where you left off. And then obviously having the entire position coaching staff back as well just continues to build depth in consistency and approach, and you don't lose time through communication. You lose time when you have poor communication. And we've got great communication, we've got great continuity, and it lets you get into the season with a great deal of confidence.
Thank you.
Coach, how different is this for you? At Central Michigan, you fixed a program and then you moved on. At Cincinnati, you fixed a program and moved on. Now this is really the first time since Grand Valley that you're maintaining. How different is the maintaining stage or the working with a program that you've already fixed in terms of going into this year?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think that there's some work that still needs to be done internally as it relates to the football team and the players. We still have some depth issues. We still have some work to do in recruiting, and I think we're addressing those, and we're really close there. So that's business as usual, if you will. I think the other things now have to do with the longevity of the program, and that has to do with great communication throughout the entire campus and community, and making sure that we're doing all the things necessary to provide our student athletes everything they need to be successful. And what that means, obviously, is retention and graduation, making sure that they have all the things necessary to be the best players. We're making small things that are really big. We've added some food service opportunities here. It may not seem like much, but they're really big when it comes to the long season and keeping our players' weight up and things of that nature. So little things like that don't necessarily are seen as big things. Everyone wants to talk about the stadium as the big ticket. There are many more things that are bigger that are going on here on a day-to-day basis, Al, that are more important to me than the stadium, because they're helping us continue to build the program.
What's going through your mind when one of your top receivers is jumping in a tank with a bunch of sharks?
I was absolutely excited to see that. You figure if he's going to jump in a tank of sharks, he's going to go over the middle without any fear. So I was pretty fired up that it was T.J. Jones in there.
Brian, you mentioned some of those little things, obviously training table, the space of that. I would imagine the regularity of that, maybe expanding that program. What are some of the other small things that you feel like Notre Dame needs to do to make seasons like last season a regularity opposed to an anomaly?
I really think that any successful business or organization, that there's a partnership that forms with all those that are involved, and that everybody becomes accountable on a day-to-day basis. If you have a great business, accounting is working hand in hand with marketing. And in an academic institution, we know our place in athletics, but it's important that everybody's communicating and working together on a day-to-day basis. So those are the things that we're working on a day-to-day basis, just like any other good business would and successful organization would. So I think that just that communication and building relationships and building trust, that if we ask for something, that it's needed. And so those are the relationships that are building on a day-to-day basis that allow your business to continue to grow, and that synergy grows the program on a day-to-day basis.
The negotiation of your contract has gotten a lot of attention. Is this all part of it, to see what trust is there, if things that you feel like you need for the program, if you can get those or not? Is that all part of the negotiation process?
No, there's no, this has never been one that I've used a contract to leverage the university to do something. If I had to do that, I would not be here. Our university knows exactly what it takes. We've have no issues relative to contract. I have no issues. So that's not a story from my standpoint. Contractually, we have a contract and an agreement. We have people that are paid money to look at these contracts, and they look at them very closely. and they don't operate as quickly as I would like to. But there are no issues contractually. There is no leverage play here. I'm really excited about our leadership and my opportunities to speak after the season on a couple occasions with Father Jenkins have given me the energy and the excitement that we can continue to build and grow this football program for years to come.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly there. Can I read that as you've agreed to something in principle, but the details haven't been worked out?
Absolutely. You can agree that. That is exactly what happened back in December. We had an agreement. There's just, legal language, nothing that has, put me in a position or the university that we don't have an agreement moving forward for a number of years.
Is that something you feel like may not be resolved until after the season? Is that something you would rather not think
it's
about
imminent.
now?
No, I think it's imminent. I think something, and it's up to Jack. Jack Swarbrick will make that decision whether he wants to make an announcement or not. I really don't need an announcement. I've got a signed contract. So I'm getting paid every day, and I'm fortunate to be the head coach at Notre Dame. So I'm not really worried about that stuff.
Much smaller picture than that. Just in terms of your conversations with Coach Longo over the summer.
I don't have any conversations with Coach Longo.
None, yeah, I'm sure. Who are the guys that he felt like really embraced or made the biggest gains in terms of strength and conditioning and really kind of buying in and committing maybe at a different level to that?
Well, I think every year there's a level of commitment that changes when that senior class graduates. I think across the board, you always see that. Specifically, I think what Coach Longo, in my talkings with him the last couple of days, what he was most excited about was the single-minded purpose of the entire group and the ability to bring the freshman class in with this existing class at the same level. In other words, he could mix them in. They were a highly skilled, highly conditioned group that he could mix them in. So the two things were an incredible focus with the entire unit, a freshman class that will really add a dimension that we have not seen, that he's never seen in his time as a strength coach. And then I think the final piece is that every player has made significant gains across the board, from a Zach Martin all the way down to a Chris Brown. They all have made significant gains.
Lastly, for me, in spring, you were kind of on the search for defensive leadership, weren't really sure where that voice was going to come from. I know you don't have contact with him over the summer, but did you get much of an indication from Longo, or maybe just talking to players here or there, about where that voice was defensively? Who was that voice?
Yeah, I think we have a combination there. I don't know that we have one guy like a Zach Martin stands out on offense, Pete. I don't know that there's that kind of personality on defense. There's a number of them. I look at a Bennett Jackson. I look at, Calabrese and Fox are seniors. I even look at, when you talk about a Prince Shembo and a Danny Spond. On the back end of our defense, Kaveri Russell is very vocal as a sophomore. So, it takes on a different form, but I know there's a number of players there that will get their opportunity to step out. We'll make a decision when camp completes on captains and naming them, but we will name captains this year as we did last year.
Brian over here. It's probably fair to say that Lewis Nix was a little bit under the radar as far as the national media and national appreciation last year, and he'd probably be the first one to point that out. Over the offseason, though, everybody's in love with Lewis Nix this year, and a lot of guys in that position take their foot off the gas. It doesn't appear that Lewis has done that. Am I reading that correctly? And if so, why is that? How has he been able to keep that accelerator down?
I think when we gave him an opportunity to play quarterback in the spring game, I think it changed him. Here's a young man, again, that knows, in his last season of competition, it's his chance to make his mark. It's his opportunity to help lead a football team back to a championship. He knows it can be done. So then it becomes on him, to be that guy on the field every snap. I know one of his goals was to, and Coach Longo worked closely with him in getting his volume so he could be on the field. When your best player is on the field, every snap, you're a better football team. So he committed to that. And you know, that's Lewis making that conscious decision that he wanted to be that guy. So again, maturity, right? You know, that senior year does something to you when it's your last year. All those things came together, and Lewis wanted that to happen.
How hard is it to find a zero technique guy like that, you know, is a big dude that can really move when you're out recruiting?
I think you have to really look and project in some instances. You know, they're not. You know, you're not going to get that kind of guy every year where, you know, he's got that frame and that first step quickness can dominate at the line of scrimmage. It's you know, it's a hard position to find, but you know, you can project to that. You can find somebody that maybe is, you know, 260, 265 that can work into that kind of position if he's got some of the other intangibles. So it's hard to find that guy that's ready-made. A lot of times you have to develop them. And we developed Lewis in a sense as well. He was big. He had some of those, you know, prototypical nose guard characteristics, but he's developed incredibly since he got here on campus, and we expect to do that with the next guy.
You've been really fortunate with some of your scout team quarterbacks in that you've gotten great looks, Everett Golson, Gunnar Keel. What are your plans with Malik? Do you want to have him always working with the, you know, the regular offense, or are you going to bounce him back and forth?
We want to keep him with us, and when I say us, we want to keep him, you know, with the starters, and you know, that's important. He needs to get that firsthand knowledge of the offense and defenses and see the college game. So it's very important for us to keep him. We have to find alternatives within the program, and we're on the waiver wire. We're looking carefully. We've made the calls to the dorms, but we'll solve that internally. But to answer your question, Malik needs to see it. He needs to be with us.
Well, you got a kind of distorted view of Kyle Brinza, I would imagine, as a punter in the spring, that you were inside so much he didn't really get to cut it loose, and then in the spring game that kind of showed up. What do you anticipate from him this fall? Do you feel like he can still handle all the jobs?
Yeah, it'll come down to the discipline of the punting game, and the discipline for him is his drop and his consistency. And you know, he's a hard worker. He's extremely conscientious. He's a very good competitor. He's got the skill set. This is really going to be something that we'll continue to look at each and every day. But our expectations are that he's got the makeup to do it. Now, we've brought in, you know, a couple other young men that will vie for the punting position. But our expectations are that Kyle can do it. But we're prepared. If we run into any problems, you know, to look in another direction. But our expectations are that Kyle's going to be able to do the job for us.
Last couple little things from me on personnel stuff. Joey Brooks, what went into the decision for him not to be back this fall?
You know, we just felt like, you know, at that position, we were, you know, in very good hands. Bringing in Mike Harriman as a mid-year, we got a chance to see him, and we did not want to stunt his growth. And Joey, you know, did a very good job for us, came in, worked hard, did everything we asked him to do. This was simply about a young kid in Hireman and obviously giving him more of the reps that Joey would have taken from him.
And I guess we all noticed Jesse Bon Jovi on the roster. What was kind of the evolution of that relationship that landed him here?
Well, you know, recruiting, you know, Poly Prep, you know, is, you know, very important recruiting area for us, and you know, recruiting in that area, you know, is, you know, put us in touch with him. You know, he's had a relationship with Notre Dame. You know, goes back to Coach Weiss, and you know, Jesse's earned his spot on the 105. He's a tough kid, you know, and he's gonna. The kids really like him. They respect him. They don't look at him as a rock star's son. They look at him as a kid that loves Notre Dame and wants to play football and help this team. So he's had a good summer, and Coach Longo liked his work ethic and the way he competed.
This way, Coach. You mentioned talked about Malik being with the quarterbacks. How do you plan to? How much work does Tommy get versus Andrew and Malik as you go through the next month?
Well, you know my philosophy has been our number 2 gets much more work than most 2s in the country. And it's proven that way because I have a tendency to play more than one quarterback. But I would say that, Andrew is going to get a lot of reps. Tommy needs a lot of work too because he didn't get as many last year. So, you'll see a break there, whether it's 6'4" or 7'3" in terms of numbers between 1 and 2. And then, we will definitely get Malik in the mix as well. And we'll make sure of it. We got a number of freshmen that we're going to have to get some reps, and our practice is going to have to be such that we give them opportunities, even if it's just freshmen going against freshmen. We got to get them in and get a camera on them and get some eyes on these guys so we can evaluate them.
You talked about the running backs a little bit already. Are there other position battles you're eager to see play out in the next month?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of them. Yeah, what's going to happen at linebacker? I mean, we got some really good players. I mean, we're really deep at linebacker, inside and out. Fox and Calabrese and Grace and Moore, and you look on the outside with Eshak and Shembo and Okora, Spond with Council and Jalen. I mean, it's going to be exciting. At safety, we think we've got a number of really good safety, with Collinsworth back and Shoemate. Farley obviously has proven himself to be a BCS safety for us, but Hardy had a great spring. Bring in a Max Redfield. Corner, it'll be interesting to see who's that 3rd and 4th corner. Low Woods back, Jalen Brown, Josh Atkinson. I could go on and on. I mean, I think we've got 6, 7 defensive linemen. Does Tony Springman gets a chance now to step up, a little bit. Jerron Jones, what can Isaac Rochelle do for us? So it's going to be fun. We're excited. I mean, we got a lot of veterans coming back, but there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to evaluate, and we got a lot of players that are going to get that opportunity.
It's probably a little bit on the offensive line as well, too. How soon do you want to nail down a starting 5 there rather than a mix and match?
I don't know that is as important as maybe having the quarterback ready and locked in. That group works so well together. They do everything together. They hang out together. So there's a continuity in that group that exists in their DNA as offensive linemen. You know what I mean? They can come in and out of the game. There'll be some battles there. The right side, the right guard position, the center still. Nick Martin has obviously had a great spring, but Hegarty now is healthy. He's going to get a chance to charge at that position. So there'll be a couple, but that's probably one of the units that I'm less concerned about that, that group playing together because they do it, as a way of life.
Coach, to your right, I know one of your program goals was to get to that 85 scholarship limit, and there's always off-season transfers. It's always going to happen. How at Notre Dame can you combat that, knowing that it's tough to start August with 82, 81 guys, and then attrition follows from there?
Yeah, look, if you're 83 to 85, you're fine. I mean, you can't be at 75. You can't be at 78. Now you're into an area where of great depth and concern of practicing the way you want to. So we're in striking distance. Like I said, I think, program building, that's still one of the boxes that hasn't been checked off yet in terms of the depth and scholarship, but we're getting closer. We put Joey Schmidt on scholarship this year. Who knows? Maybe we go through camp and there's a couple other guys that may be deserving of a scholarship opportunity. But we're closer. I don't think it's not a red flag for me anymore, but we still have some work to do there.
Schmidt is probably unique in that you might have been able to see him when he came in as a freshman. Hey, maybe in a couple years he could be a scholarship guy. Is
sure.
Preferred walk-on route, somewhere you can go? I know there's a lot of guys coming in this year, but they're specialists. Is it somewhere to really kind of examine?
I hope so. I hope that we can be, we have a reputation that if you make a commitment to Notre Dame, and it's a huge commitment financially, obviously, but if you make that commitment, and we're upfront and honest with you that, hey, if you do that, you'll have an opportunity here to earn a scholarship. Nothing's guaranteed. It'll have to be earned. But I hope to have that reputation. And I think we're slowly getting it with, obviously Chris Salvi the year before and Joe Schmidt this year. So if we can continue in that vein, that's where I'd like to be, where we can get a kid maybe a year, every year or so that comes in and works his way into a scholarship.
Brian, what's your take on the new targeting rule that's going to be enforced this fall? Are you at all concerned about losing a starting safety, late in the game, or is it better for the safety of players?
The rule's been in effect. We're all talking about a new rule. It's not a new rule. Targeting has been in effect. I think what has concerned many is the interpretation of targeting more than anything else. We're not going to change anything in the way we coach. We're going to continue to coach safe tackling techniques as we always have. We're going to talk about playing penalty-free and making sure that we're a disciplined football team. Now, when you put it in the hands of somebody else to make that decision, that's where it becomes a bit of an issue. We're going to have to work through it. We're hopeful that, with the inclusion of instant replay, that could solve a lot of problems. But last year, in talking to a number of people, there were only, I think there were less than 20 incidents last year that were targeting, or quote-unquote targeting was the call. So, again, from our standpoint, we'll continue to coach the same way. Talk about safe tackling techniques, make sure that our kids understand that they're not going to lead with the helmet, and let it go from there.
You talked about the depth at safety and cornerback, and even if you teach all those tactics and there's an accidental helmet-to-helmet, does having that depth almost become more important now, where there's no leeway for the official to call it if there is helmet-to-helmet?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that we're not really thinking in those terms. Those scenarios are not at the forefront of conversations within our defensive staff meeting rooms. But we would have to treat it like an injury, and have the next man ready. So I think having depth certainly helps you in those situations, as it would if there was an injury. But again, I don't believe that those are conversations that are taking place in Coach Diaco's staff room. He's talking about safe tackling techniques, being disciplined and being smart.
Switching gears back to Tommy, last time he started, he had 2 big targets in Floyd and Eifert to throw to. Do you need to see a wide receiver or a tight end really emerge to be a 70, 100 catch target, or can Tommy get by with kind of a wider distribution?
No, I would prefer wider distribution. I mean, Tommy's capable of going across from sideline to sideline and distributing the football to where it needs to go. But when you have a Michael Floyd and a Tyler Eifert, get them the ball. It's that simple. We don't have those 2 guys. So, but we do have a T.J. Jones, who I think is one of the best route runners in the country. Wouldn't surprise me if he's a first-round draft pick. He's that good, and sometimes he doesn't get enough of the accolades. I think he's a great receiver. I think you're going to see Daniels emerge. Chris Brown's going to emerge. I think our tight ends can all catch the football. Our running backs have proven to be very good. So I think he's got a number of weapons. No, he doesn't have an Eifert or a Floyd, but boy, I think we're more balanced at that position than any time since I've been here at Notre Dame.
Coach, over here to your right. You had talked in the past about when you have 4 quarterbacks, to have more than that, dividing the reps up is very difficult. When you have 6 running backs and a finite amount of time to make decisions and evaluations, how do you evenly divide up the reps to make a fair assessment?
You can't. But each one of them will have a role, and they'll have to accept what their role is. Maybe one role will be an expansive special teams role, and he'll have to accept that role. Maybe another role is that if somebody goes down, he now gets more reps. But when you have 6, everybody has to accept what that role is. We don't know what it's going to be yet. It's still yet to be determined because we think we've got 6 guys that are fighting for playing time. As you know, within our offense, we can play a couple of running backs at one time. Because of the versatility of the slot position, you could see one of those running backs playing in the slot. So we have some versatility if we find that our best playmakers come from that position. at least we're in a good position offensively that the structure of the offense allows those guys to get on the field. And then, where can you help us? Are you a red zone player for us? Are you a short yardage? Are you a third down back? Are you going to catch punts or kickoffs? You know, and you're going to help us on special teams. So if they're all ready to play and help us, we'll find roles, and then it's up to them to accept the roles that we give them.
Do you have the preference there, like with a Floyd or an Eifert, just that one single guy who can rely on 15, 20 carries a game, or you have no problem just divvying it up with?
We have a great system of allowing a number of players to get involved in the game through our system of communication. So, yeah, we don't have a preconceived notion other than what I talked about earlier. We put a highlight film together and we saw George Atkinson a lot. He's fast and he can do some big things. Other than that, we're going to have to find out where we are at that position.
On the right side of the line there, who would you be more apt to perhaps move to a different position if need be? I mean, are you set with Christian at the tackle position? Because you did move Ronnie Stanley to guard. Mm-hmm. Could Elmer even move to guard? Or
I think those are all possibilities. I think, we'll get into camp and we'll see how that, position, solidifies itself. But they're certainly capable of playing guard and tackle. We'll evaluate that as we go. But clearly, I think we know that Christian Lombard can handle himself at the right tackle position. If he goes down, I think we've got great answers. If we want to get the best players on the field, we can include those guys in the mix if we think that they are capable of doing that. So great flexibility would be my answer, that we can do a number of things on that right side.
2 years ago, 29 turnovers. Last year, cut it into half, only 15. Big difference between 8-5 and 12-1. The defense, again, is projected to kind of be the strength of the team, and then maybe that leads you to play a certain way on offense. You operated very well with that offensive scheme last year. Do you try to maybe take more chances, if that's the right way to look at it, and maybe risk more turnovers? Or the fact that you had a great formula last year of limit the turnovers, let the defense do its job, kind of work for you again?
Well, we expect to score more points offensively. I mean, I think when you get down to it, we want to take care of the football. As we mentioned, that's absolutely crucial. But we need to score more points. Internally, putting more points on the board is absolutely crucial. We think we'll be able to do that with a veteran quarterback in Tommy Rees and continue dominating defensive play. Improve our special teams. That will be, short term, the things that we're looking at as we get ready for Temple. Offensively, we need to score more points.
Real quick, we have two more here, but just see if we have any on the line.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's star one to ask a question over the phone. And we do have a question from Paul Banks from the sportsbank.net.
Hi, Coach. Stephon Stewart has been talked about as a next-level prospect. What do you see as his biggest strengths and weaknesses? And there is a lot of talk about what he could be in the future. How do you kind of keep him grounded from the hyperbole that talks about him?
I didn't hear the name.
Stephon Stewart.
Stephon Tuitt. I think we take the same approach with all of our players. It's not my job to get guys ready for the NFL. It's my job to develop them here at Notre Dame to win football games and get their degree. So we really don't spend a lot of time talking about their draft status. We talk to them more about how they can be a better football player and be a better teammate here at Notre Dame. All that other stuff is conjecture and opinions, but we really don't spend much time on it. Our focus with Stephon Tuitt this summer was conditioning, making sure that he can be on the field for as many plays, and for him to continue to make progress academically towards his degree. We didn't have a conversation about anything as it relates to the National Football League.
What do you like best in his game, and can you see him being the leader of the unit this year?
Stephon Tuitt, could he be a leader? Yeah, I think everybody on our on that defensive unit can take a leadership role, some in different forms. You know, if Stephon Tuitt is out there doing his job and doing what he's asked to do on a day-to-day basis, he de facto becomes a leader for us. And so that's kind of how we go into developing our players on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't mean that they have to have a C on their jersey to be a leader. So our expectations are absolutely yes. We expect them to be a leader for us on defense.
Thanks.
You, sir.
And our next question comes from Gary Schneider with Indiana Talks.
Hi, Coach. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Hey, my question, two quick questions. One, a fairly serious question, one kind of a little lighthearted. But number one, you asked your players to improve, make changes over the offseason and become better players for the next season. What do you do as a coach to improve, and what improvements as a coach should we see from you on the sideline this season? And second of all, were you a Bon Jovi fan before you started recruiting Jeff?
Well, the improvements that I make have to do with, you know, how I direct the staff, how we direct the program, you know, how we communicate, always looking to be better at doing what we do, being innovative, always looking for better ways to do it. You know, getting out and seeing other programs, bringing coaches in, you know, that's part of being a great teacher, that you're always trying to learn. You know, what I do on the sidelines is too late. I better be doing it during the week and in the off season. And so I think all of our coaches are committed to being better teachers and educators, and I think we all take that very serious, because you're right. You ask your players to improve. You want your coaches to look for ways to grow as well. And my unit, my group does that as well as any group I've ever been around. As far as John Bon Jovi, yeah, I'm a huge fan. You know, it didn't have to have his son to make that apparent. But, you know, he had a bit of a reputation here. As I mentioned earlier, I think Charlie Weiss, being from New Jersey, had brought him into the Notre Dame family long before I came. You know, he's a great guy. He's a grounded guy. You know, you think a rock star, that he's, you know, he's an unapproachable guy. It just, you know, we got a lot of famous people. He could probably get into the stadium and put a hat and glasses on and make it through the game. A guy that can't is David Robinson. You know, when he comes into the stadium, he's a guy that everybody knows who he is. So we've got a lot of those guys in our program that are high profile, but they handle themselves and have in the past with, you know, the Golics and such with great class.
All right, thanks for everybody, and we'll be in touch over the next few weeks.